Hello, everyone, and welcome to another one of my podcasts. And today I'm going to talk about social HR, and it's actually a new product that we have launched and running with some of our clients. So I thought I would break it down and give you our view on what does this actually mean if you work in HR, and how can you build from this. So, what is social HR? In simple terms, we view it as a better way for HR to connect technology and talent to get the best from people, whatever that might be in terms of you looking to get the best from those individuals. It's about looking at how you can increase productivity and performance, and from our view, it is reinventing HR from, dare I say it, the nicknames human remains, hindering recruitment. I could go on. The view of what HR is that their process, their policy, their back office function. It's very private. If you're having to deal with HR as an employee, typically there's something going wrong rather than necessarily something going right. I would suggest for the most. So it's looking at how can we move them from being that perceived back office function, and of course I am talking in the round here, to becoming a catalyst for change within a company, and using technology as a enabler or facilitator of this, in order to connect talents to people and then to ideally outcomes. So you've actually got some data and insight as to the results sort of this, and to break this down through data, through human capital, through people, however you want to refer internally to staff, employees, doesn't really matter. The people at the end of the day, how we are connecting these to tangible outcomes and results. So it's not just kind of some pie in the sky, airy fairy sort of thing. And this is nothing new here, but we see this as an opportunity for people to work differently, anywhere, anytime, but, and the big but here, make sure this is happening as a community. So we're not having situations where people feel alone. They feel like they're an outlier within an organisation. We're very much seeing the rise of the gig economy, or I heard the word slasher economy the other day. So it could be wife, husband, slash entrepreneur, slash coach, slash yoga instructor, for example. But that's the key thing here, is how we actually, or rather how is HR enabling and ensuring that community is being created. And what we are very clear on, and we do see this, and the fear out there, dare I say it, that this is not about technology or AI, and I'm using my inverted commas for AI, to replace human beings. In fact, it's actually the complete reverse of that equation, which is IA, so intelligence augmented. So how are we actually looking about connecting people to new people and capacity, or better capacity, to do better work? Creating a more collaborative culture through tech, we can ironically become more human. So yes, look at the social media, look at what's going on in the world at the moment, is that one can argue that whilst technology is bringing us closer together, we are becoming less human, and starting to see the machines, and by that I mean Facebook and varying other social media platforms, trying to combat some of this. But obviously there's the tension between them doing that and them making even more billions. But if we bring this down into the day-to-day and creating a culture of collaboration through technology platforms within your company, then we believe here at DLA Ignite, that can actually create more human connections and more human behaviours. And so by what do we mean by this? So it is facilitating knowledge networks. It's creating serendipity through both the virtual and physical platforms. So we're not losing either or. It's not even an and or question, because organisations have huge amounts of, dare I say it, cognitive surplus, and we just don't understand that it exists there. We're not tapping into this. We're not, as I said earlier, creating that serendipity through the network. So if one is able to access that cognitive surplus which exists within our organisations, we can then crowdsource ideas, insight, opportunities, and by doing this, save time and money. So you're probably thinking, what the hell do you mean by tapping into cognitive surplus? So let's take this as an example. You have an employee collaboration platform. It could be Facebook Workplace, it could be Jive, it could be Yammer, Microsoft Teams, Slack. It doesn't really matter. They all basically do the same things. But what humans typically do is we will always go to the 5 people that sit around us, the 5 people that we know, to help answer a question, solve a business problem, etc. You may go into the intranet to search things. You may go into your LinkedIn network to help find people internally. But we just go to the people that we know. So let's take an example of, I don't know, you could well be looking to present something or opportunity proposal around Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, or even a broader piece around blockchain. And you go to your tried and tested people, and who may know something or may default to what is being told at a corporate level of the view on this area of interest. But you don't know that maybe somewhere in your back office functions, in IT, I'm guessing would be a start of 10, but it could be any employee for that matter. But let's just say within the IT team, you have a highly intelligent individual who helps with help desk and answers queries in terms of my computer won't work. But little do you know that they are actually a crypto enthusiast. They could be a crypto investor and are making thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on the market, and have an intimate understanding of how that market works. Now, wouldn't it be awesome if you were able to tap into, as I referred to earlier, that kind of surplus, that cognitive surplus that they have just sitting in their head because it's what they do when they're at home, that could massively help you in answering a question, winning a pitch. If you think about how many individuals within your company there are, especially if you're a huge major enterprise, how much of this knowledge and insight you just don't even know exists because we're not bringing it all together. And so that's where the technology aspects can come in with products such as Profinder, profinder.com, that help answer some of these questions, that can facilitate that knowledge network, because this could then shortcut a pitch, an opportunity, etc., etc. So how is this kind of ultimately broken down from that introduction to what is social HR? So from our view, this is our take on it. It connects people to performance through social technology. It combines talent and technology to achieve business outcomes. It facilitates a collaborative culture and knowledge networks, nurtures communities, innovation, and collective intelligence. That's the intelligence augmented, I should say, and transforms HR from back office to the business driver, the catalyst, if you will, and creates an agile, networked, and learning organisation. So what does this mean in the real world? I kind of hear you, I don't hear you, but I'm assuming that you're thinking as you're listening to this, wherever you are. So it's kind of broken down into 5 themes or 5 pillars, if you will. So creating the social HR professional, so actually enabling, empowering at the individual level, how to build in that social behaviour and mindset. And if you're familiar with Carol Dweck mindset theory, we are big proponents of that. Those of you who are regular listeners will know that. So how do you actually create the social HR professional, both from a behavioural perspective, but also from obviously a technical perspective? Then social talent, so that is could be social recruitment, social talent. Then it's social learning, so how are we actually using social to drive internal learning programs, external learning programs. The overall employee experience is the fourth one, so end to end from attracting candidates the whole way through to leavers and the alumni community, and then wrapping this all in the employer branding space. So if we break those down, then what does that actually mean in the real world? So that's the social HR professional. So understanding the evolution of social technology. And this could be social technology in terms of LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, Snap, TikTok, through to social platforms or social collaboration platforms such as Jive, Yammer, Microsoft Teams, Slack, Profinder, etc., etc. So actually get an understanding of what is out there in the world and how does that fit into your organisation, because one size does not fit all. That is for sure. Then it's the consideration of the key platforms, as mentioned. So working through your current processes, working through what is in place, what isn't in place, and where technology can actually help with that intelligence augmentation. Because technology may not actually be the solution to this. It's certainly going to be part of it, but it may not be, let's layer another piece of tech which no one's going to use because no one has been articulated to as to what's in it for me. And then I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but we do find this when working with clients, is that I think because HR teams have this, dare I say it, this persona, and I'm talking broad brushstrokes, so my apologies to anybody who's from HR listening to this. I'm not necessarily referring to you, but as a community, you don't necessarily have the best presence on social. LinkedIn would be the natural place to be because typically this is where your future hires will come and seek you out and come and want to find you. And too often do we see HR leads and HR teams not even representing themselves in terms of who they are, in terms of what they stand for, and more importantly, what type of employer they are. So helping HR professional how to build an active presence on LinkedIn, and it could well be beyond that in terms of online. On Instagram, certainly at a corporate level, is proving to be a hugely powerful recruitment tool. And then looking to enable the social HR professional to build out confidence and capability as an overall social user, to start evangelizing the outward-looking message, the catalyst for change. We're open door for conversation, but that conversation could well be online as it were. And then we move into the second pillar, which is social talent. So looking at social technology as a talent catalyst and connector. And again, this is both internal and external. So we focus on the external piece in terms of how you can use social to drive direct hires. Now, of course, this isn't saying that there's no room for recruitment agencies or headhunting agencies. Of course there is. But if you are able to leverage your social networks and the network of the organisation and connect internally through your employee network into their external network, you can save tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds in recruitment fees where you're driving that direct hire rather than necessarily through an agency. Now, of course, I recognise this does require manpower to handle this, and if you haven't got an internal recruitment team or there isn't the capacity to do this, then I do recognise the challenges behind that. But by way of example, we've saved one of our clients close to £150,000 in recruitment fees over a 9-month period through writing one article on LinkedIn that they were hiring. That's now been reinvested back into making more hires within their sales teams. So looking at the key platforms out there from a recruitment perspective, both internally and externally, because you've got to move talents around internally. You've got to move people if they become disenfranchised within where they're at, if there's opportunity elsewhere within the business, and they're the right person for that. Because I recognise you do need churn. You need natural churn to move things forward and keep different skill sets and different talents coming in. But how are you leveraging those platforms from the internal piece as well as the external piece to move that, go back to again that cognitive surplus around the business? And then what tactics do you put in place to drive this? And then how are you actually connecting to talent through your people? So when we are doing this for sales and marketing teams, or we're doing it from a business development perspective, we talk about sort of sell through your network and market to your network. In order for that to happen, you need to be connected to your existing client base. So the key clients that you work with, so you can market through their networks of like-minded people. Well, as an HR community, your client base are your people. So if you're not connecting to them on a social platform to then market through to their networks, how are you going to help evangelize the message of what the business stands for through the network of the employee? Because the employees will have their own trusted networks who will likely to trust them way more than the corporate message, or even just a bland advert or job ad on LinkedIn. So you've got to start connecting internally with all your employees and all your staff, because you are the go-to person. That is also, if you then start to be active on platforms, how you can start to raise your presence and your profile within a business and move things around quickly. And I was with we act for one of the big four, and we were with them the other day. Again, this is from a sales and marketing perspective, and actually one of the partners admitted they learn more about what they're doing internally through LinkedIn than they do through internal comms, because we just don't have the time or the bandwidth with the volume of emails that are now coming into our inbox. So that's the social talent aspect side of things. Then we have the social learning side of things. So this is all around defining social learning as an organizational tool, so actually making it something. And certainly in the US sales market, we're starting to see this this theory be put into practice very well in the space of sales enablement and sales operations. So there's a technology platform called SalesHood, which is an online collaboration platform where you can do on-demand training via whatever medium that you want. So it could be slides, video, podcasts like this, questionnaires, all sorts of things, and that can be bespoke to your sales force. So this is now starting to become a thing. The young generation, this is completely normal for them in terms of on-demand learning and e-learning. So how are you using the social aspect, or the social network aspect within your organisation to get the business to understand that this is what we're trying to achieve? Consider different ways of developing social learning frameworks, so much like that SalesHood that I touched on. Develop, I should say, an effective, what is referred to in HR terms, PLN, personal learning network. So people learn from each other. Back to my friend who's a crypto enthusiast in the IT team. How are we bringing this all together? The reverse mentoring side of things. So how the young generation reverse mentoring to the older generation around all things tech. And then inversely, how is the older generation, through their experience, 10, 20, 30 years in the game, helping the young generation understand or bring that experience to bear to help them navigate still quite structured aspects of companies in order to certain hoops that one needs to jump through. Even though I believe those hierarchies will become more fluid as kind of this social technology becomes more pervasive within organisations, and behaviourally this is just business as usual. So focusing on that personal learning network, and then both enhancing personal and professional development within that. So that's the social learning side of things, and then we kind of move this to more both outwardly and inwardly focusing, but it's typically going to start with outwardly focusing, which is driving that employee experience. So do you really understand what is the experience cradle to grave from people looking to come into the hiring process? And I spent 5 years in recruitment, and so I've seen firsthand the good, the bad, and the ugly. So even if it is when employees don't get a role, i.e. external hires, how is that managed and handled? Because if you give them a really great experience, they're still going to promote your brand to other organisations, or other people I should say. But if you give them a really crap experience, they're going to, if someone says, well, should I apply for that job, they're going to go no, because it was terrible, they got no feedback, it was completely useless, and they missold the role to me, etc., etc. So do you genuinely understand what that is and what that looks like? Are you talking to when you onboard clients, onboard candidates I should say? Do you do kind of a post onboarding questionnaire or one-to-one? How was it for you? What could we do better on? If it was a direct hire, what was the process? If it was through an agency, what was that process like? All the way through to your leavers, and assuming that they're good leavers, how is that exited? And then what is the alumni network? What is the community that is being created? And I don't mean just setting up a LinkedIn group or a Facebook group and just broadcasting stuff. How are you actually creating a community? Could be around a hashtag, for example. How are you creating that online community? So the cradle to grave employee experience. But then, of course, what is the employee experience internally within your company? And how are you using technology and social tools or social community tools to enhance engagement, to drive a better employee experience? So you're not getting people who are disenfranchised. You're not getting good people leaving because they're just pissed off with life and they feel they can't make themselves heard, etc., etc. So if we're able to bring all of this out into the open, if we're able to have a far more open door policy, and I know that as HR teams you will say we have an open door policy, but I think in order for that to be real, you need to be open door in the virtual world as well as kind of open door in the physical world, as it were. And then creating, or rather enhancing, the HR connection as a team or as a community in their own rights to the business as a community manager. So I'm not necessarily saying that HR teams should manage these groups, but certainly you should be enabling, empowering, and driving the message through that one is able to do this. And dare I say it, whether it's the right place to bring this in, but it covers all things. There's things like social media policies. Is that typically a social media policy is do not, so no one will do anything, rather than you can, which is more encouraging and collaborative to actually get people to do things. And then it's the overall wrapper in all of this is the overall employer branding. So does HR actually understand what that means? Do you actually understand what that is, what it stands for? How is that being articulated? Is it being articulated? Are you tracking this through things like social listening technologies such as Microsoft Social Engagement, or I think it's AI Market for Insights, Brandwatch, Bombora, all these technology tools out there that enable this? How is this actually being tracked? And then are you actually linking your employer brand to the brand value proposition? And does that all join up in terms of the narrative? Does it make sense, or do they exist, or do they contradict each other? So connecting HR to brand enhancement as a catalyst, this will then enable you to kind of build, dare I say, a tailored employer branding toolkit, which is not only useful obviously for the social HR professional, but then you can help each employee act as an employee advocate, or act as that overall employer brand ambassador for you, if you then invest in tools, social advocacy tools such as Elevate, Smart, Sociable, Clearview Social. They're 10 a penny out there. But again, if there's no kind of guidelines or rules of engagement, or what's in it for me, or why am I doing this, then nobody's going to do it. Or you're just going to be broadcasting that message, which doesn't really help with anything. So again, you're probably thinking, again, this all sounds well and good. So what are the benefits of the HR? What is the output that we see in this? So our view, this will make you more visible and more credible within the organisation. This will connect you to the business and its outcomes as a true business partner. We see this as creating HR as a catalyst, a coach, a connector within the business. We see that the social technology, both internal and external, will empower, enable, and hopefully energize people to do this. It'll improve employee engagement, and I've seen that both, myself, where I've been on the receiving end of an employee advocacy tool implemented, and where it works well, the employee engagement is awesome. Where it doesn't work well, it can actually drive the diametric opposite. That's typically because nothing has been articulated in a way as to what's in it for me, and it creates a more collaborative view of HR, and it has an overall positive impact on the employer brand and the overall proposition. But what this also then starts to do is you can start to get data and analytics, and you can start to get data and analytics in real time. And there's a fascinating platform called Glint, Glint, which actually enables to track the employee experience in real time, looking at varying numbers of metrics. It really is quite a fascinating piece of technology. But then you start to uncover maybe metrics and data that you never had before. So are you monitoring sentiment within your social advocacy tool internally? Are you monitoring sentiment externally in terms of the employee experience from an onboarding perspective? All these types of things. Engagement in terms of logging in, logging out. When are people logging in? How are people logging in? All these different things, these subtle nuances. You start to build this up over time, and you might start to see some interesting trends around the high performers. What are they doing versus the people that need to put on a performance program? What can we learn from that? And we're very much seeing this in the sales tech stack world, where voice is being used to record phone calls, and off the back of that has been transcribed into text, and then from that you can see what people are saying or not saying, which then drives a customer conversation forward. So this is nothing new. It's just how can we translate what's already happening in one division of an organisation into another division, because then you can really start to get into, dare I say, at the heart of a company and really understand what is genuinely making it tick. And if you can start to do that, you can start to really move the needle in terms of overall experience for employee, I should say, what that means as an employer brand, what that means in terms of the client experience, i.e. both internally but also for your clients, because happy staff typically going to probably create a better and a happier client experience in terms of if they're happy to come into work and represent the brand for who they are. So this is why we genuinely believe that social and social technology, when deployed correctly, what's in it for me, with HR empowered in social across all piece, you can really start to shift the needle in the conversation. So if you'd like to find out more, or you found this interesting around how social may impact your organisation from an HR perspective, or what that could look like, please do get in touch with myself or any of my colleagues at DLA Ignite, and we'd be delighted to have a conversation with you and even test some of this theory. You may be sitting here thinking this is all poppycock and it's never going to work. We're happy to have those conversations as well. But as ever, thank you to everybody who's taken the time and effort to download this and to listen to this and to follow me. I do appreciate your support. And as ever, if we're not connected on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Insta, wherever, please do reach out and connect, and I'd be happy to continue the conversation. But otherwise, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, day, evening, wherever you may be in the world.